Welcome to Blue Monday from the Blue Room with me, Les, and hopefully Dave soon. But this week, we've definitely got Warren. There's no weekly this week because of the way Christmas falls. So we've kind of done a Blue Monday mashup with Dave and Warren, and it will be out on Wednesday, I think, Christmas Eve, because we couldn't get recorded on a Monday. It's
perfect.
Fates have conspired against us with the holiday season, and no one knows what day it is anyway.
It's about time we brought the two shows together for a mashup anyway, wasn't it? So
I think so, yeah. It's not a bad idea. It's been a terrible festive schedule for Everton so far, Warren, hasn't it? Defeats to Chelsea and Arsenal. We're going to take a look back at Arsenal in this one. We're going to leave Chelsea. That's way gone. And I want to talk about the recurring theme of the atmosphere at Everton's new ground. Because it seems to pop up every time we get beat, and people start kicking off and saying it's not as good as Goodison. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that actually as well, because I've not really missed Goodison, but I think you have, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I mean, I always said I'd miss it. You know, Goodison was such a big part for me of supporting Everton, and I've gone on record the saying many a time that we've had to move. We have had to move with the times because we simply, as a club, would fall behind and keep falling behind if we'd have stayed there. But you're never gonna replace what Goodison brought to a match day, and it was always going to happen when we moved to the new stadium. And I've said all along, I think that people are still getting used to the routine. I think people are still getting used to the match day tradition, if you like, because it was always that thing, wasn't it? You put a bet on at the bookies, or you've got your boozer that you go to, and I think people are just trying to work out what way round they're going to do things, and I think that's still playing a part. I do think it was always going to take a year or two for us to get fully used to it, wasn't it? It was never going to be straight away a thing that we all of a sudden just adapted to straight away. It's like anything, when you move, it takes time, and I think that's where it's coming to a bit of an effect. And obviously, like you said, when you lose, it's going to be amplified that bit more, because look, I mean, you were at the Brighton game and you said yourself how brilliant that day was. The Crystal Palace game when Grealish scores with that tackle at the last minute, the Forest game as well. The Forest game was brilliant for the atmosphere. So when we win, it's great. And obviously, when you lose, people are naturally going to compare it to Goodison. And it's funny because it was the same last year when we were losing games, and we had a poor record at Goodison last year in the last few years.
When we were losing games,
everyone was saying, "Can't wait till we get out of here and lose this curse of this place and get to the new place." It's natural. It was always going to happen. I think when you haven't got something, you naturally look back and wish for it back. And when you're looking forward to something like we were looking forward to the new ground, you're gonna, you can't wait to get there. So it was always going to happen. I think the atmosphere will look after itself in time, and I think it's just still an adjustment period, and it will be an adjustment period for another, I reckon, at least until the end of this season, if not going into next.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll pick back up on this later, but I think the main thing for me is that the team haven't dipped in form. Like we said, like last year, the home form was one of the worst ever, I think, in our history. So if that got worse, we'd be in trouble. Thankfully, it's not, and we've not had that sort of new ground dip that a lot of teams get. So I think that's the main thing we need to worry about, really. The fans and the atmosphere will look after itself eventually.
Absolutely,
As long as the team's doing okay, which it is. We'll come on to that later, though. And we'll talk about the Arsenal game in a sec. But before that, just a reminder that Blue Monday, or whatever this show is brought to you in conjunction with Invisible Wind Factory. It's the first big venue you get to as you walk to the ground from town on the corner of Regent Street and Regent Road. We did a bump at What's the Score at the Windy before the Arsenal game. Had Laura Leon, Dave Dargan, Paul from Falcon Blues, and Simon O'Brien. Yes, him off Brookie and Fraggle Rock, which was a nice surprise. We'll be back before the Brentford game on January 4th, but the Windy's got some other events on before that. The pick of them for me is an after party for Andy Cato's gig at Blackstone Street Warehouse. So he's one of the guys from Groove Armada. The after show's on from 10:30 until late, and tickets at £18. Blackstone Warehouse is a cracking venue as well. Went to see Kneecap there. So that, if anyone's going to that, that'll be a great gig, and the after show will be boss as well. Then on the 28th, the Circus after party, bit too old for that, mate. That's on from 10:30 p.m. till 4 a.m. and tickets for that are £33. As I said, we'll be back in for What's the Score at the Windy on January 4th. So please do pop in if you're passing. But right, Warren, let's get to it. Oh, Dave's joined us as well. Lovely stuff. Dave, you've come just in time because I've just done the preamble. So I'll tell you what, I'll come to you first. What were your thoughts on the game on Saturday? Have you changed anything from post match or still the same?
It's just a couple of things, yeah, because I'm one of the saddos who rewatches the game, whether we win, lose, or draw. Obviously, it's not pleasant to watch the ones where we've lost the game, but I think I said to you, didn't I, when we were at the game, that it didn't feel like Arsenal had to step it up at any point, really. It just felt like we were flat as a pancake. I know it's difficult given that we haven't got our full strength team out. I don't think we were particularly bad. We just didn't have anything really that could trouble them too much. I think you're looking at, I think they're the best or second best defense in the league, and other than potentially getting a penalty against them, we didn't offer much threat at all. We spoke as well, didn't we, about Grealish just being there was nothing coming from him on that side. So yeah, I mean, I feel it was one that it was. You're coming out of that as Arsenal, and Arsenal are playing against Crystal Palace on Tuesday night in the quarterfinals of the League Cup. And I was listening to Arteta's interview, and he was saying like everybody's fresh, and even though they played like 72 hours before that, they still were fine, and that's sort of like a pretty poor indictment, isn't it, of how we've gone about our business against them. And there was none of that, that sort of physicality that you want to see when everybody's like, it happens all the time, doesn't it? When you get a decision against you, when we didn't get the penalty, when you scream at the referee for giving them a penalty, there was none of that from the agency, the sense of like, there was no justice in how we were given that decision against us, and that's what concerned me more, I think, than the actual result. Because let's face it, we're playing one of the best sides in Europe.
Yeah,
and I think you need to keep that in mind if you're particularly overly critical of how we did. Losing 1-0. I mean, again, I was sat next to you, Les, wasn't I? I bet Moyes wasn't too bothered about losing that game 1-0 because of who it is. I've not listened to his interview after that, but I'd imagine that he'd look at his Everton side and think, you know what, we've put a good account of ourselves against a side that might well go on and win the Premier League, and I don't think we didn't. I thought we could have offered a lot more in that game.
Yeah, I do as well. I think Arsenal's tactic was basically, like you say, was to not really get out of second gear if they didn't have to, and just really sort of just kill the game at every opportunity. And that seems to be what they're really good at. They've got a really good defence and a really tight defence. They do limit the amount of shots a lot of teams will have against them. But Warren, it just, for me, it laid bare all those deficiencies with the squad again, didn't it? Because we just weren't creating chances. We had 2 shots in the game, none on target. According to some stats, I think some stats put us as 1 on target. But either way, it's not really good enough, is it? They had 13 shots and only 2 on target themselves, one of which was a penalty. So like Dave was saying, they didn't pull up any trees. But I think for me, it lays that bare again, and we don't seem to do anything different, do we? It was Grealish on the left. It was Alcaraz down the middle, like running around like a headless chicken, one of his worst games, I thought. And McNeil on the right. And it was just that same thing again. When, like Dave said, I think we probably could have offered more if we switched it round or done something different.
Yeah, I know Dave said to yourself on this show before about the fact that Moyes is quite stubborn and he won't try anything different. You know, would have been nice for me anyway to have seen Dibbler on the right to start the game, just to try something. Would have been nice to see Grealish maybe go in the 10 and play McNeil on the left. Just something different, but we know that through David Moyes, we very seldomly see that. We very seldomly see something where there's a bit of, I don't know, bit of difference or something that's unique maybe to what we're used to seeing. I don't know, but I'm probably gonna sound a little bit negative here myself, and people are probably going to accuse me of sounding like David Moyes here when they listen to me. But there was a comment he made after the Newcastle game when he said that, you know, it was very much like, you know, we're like years away, or words to that effect from Newcastle. They're a much stronger squad, much stronger players than us, and he come in for a bit of stick for that. And I think the reason why he come into the bit of stick is he sounds so defeatist. I think there's a way of coming out and saying to the fans that, look, we're not quite where we're at yet, but we'll give it our all. And he said it in the wrong way. He said it with too much of a Dychian way he said it. But the fact is, and this is what the game screamed to me on Saturday, the fact is I've got so many deficiencies, like you said, compared to Arsenal. I mean, I looked at their injuries versus the squad that went out, and they've got 2 or 3 cover in every position. You know, they've got a wonderful defensive setup there, and you know, Saliba, I think, Gabriel was missing, but they've got Saliba and Calafiori, who are both playing really, really well. You know, they've rested certain players and certain players. You know, he's not being sort of the main player for them, but I think that Marino, who came on for them in the game against us. He's been scoring goals for them, and he's been starting in Champions League games, but he was on the bench. So they've got options everywhere, Arsenal. We haven't. And not only haven't we got the options, we haven't got positions addressed. And we've talked forever, haven't we, about fullback. We've talked forever about, the striking position. But now that we've lost Njai and Idrissa Gana Gueye, the midfield's all of a sudden starting to look very short. And McNeil is experienced and, a proven to some degree Premier League player that he is. He's not going to come in and affect the game against Arsenal. He's just not. So I think that where I agree with Moyes in some ways, and he said it in a wrong way, I think after that Newcastle game, we are so short. We are so short in terms of a squad. When, we were all terrified, weren't we, that Grealish might have been injured for this game after he came off against Chelsea. I don't think he looked that fit against Arsenal. I don't think he was 100%. And I think that screamed to me of, let's just get him out and see if we can get some sort of performance from him. I think a fully fit Jack Grealish probably puts in a better performance there. But again, we just didn't have enough around him. I was watching it with an Arsenal mate, actually, and he was saying about Grealish, said he looks a bit quiet. And he said, the trouble is, I said, you've got Bukayo Saka, who looks to his right, he's got Declan Rice. He looks up front, and he's got, a proven striker there. And even Jesus came on at the end, isn't he? He's got Odegaard next to him, and Odegaard can find them. We haven't got that, and it will take us 3-4 transfer windows, I believe, until we get some form of squad together where we can rotate it around, we can leave someone on the bench, we can bring someone. And I think as much as I'd love to see Moyes try a few different things out, as I mentioned before, I think we are limited just because of where we are. And it is, sadly, the last 4 or 5 years of complete mismanagement of Everton, where we're on the start of a rebuild now and things are looking up, but it's going to take a while before we fully get there.
I'm mixed in between whether I think that we should have done better given what we have, and Arsenal are that much of a better side. I mean, I was talking to plenty of people saying Arsenal aren't that good. The Premier League standard is the lowest it's ever been, and I don't buy into that, because if you look at the Champions League group, they're top of it, aren't they? Above all of the big names. Arsenal are one of the best sides in Europe here. I'm not trying to use that as an excuse, but what I will say is that midfield, I mean, you're coming up against Odegaard and Declan Rice. They're probably, aside from City, that midfield duo there is the best that's in the league.
Declan Rice is probably the best in Europe at the minute, or he's certainly one of them at the minute, without a doubt.
But the counterpoint to that, I would say, is they looked untouchable compared to us. It didn't look like anybody was getting in there, proper putting the foot into them. They just seemed to have the ball, turn on it when they want, and just pass it. They just have free reign. And I think if there's something, probably the most I blame on Moyes is not having somebody in midfield. That's where you're screaming out for Idrissa Gueye, that role, isn't it? Let's be honest. You need somebody like him to be in there. And I think he could have put, I know, well, it's typical Moyes-esque, isn't it? If we're throwing the boot in at him, that he's brought a player on who still isn't fully fit in role coming on. I'd like to look at him, what I've seen so far, very minimal amount of time, of course, but that's another part of what Warren was said there, where he just doesn't seem to be willing to change and make a difference in what can be put into that midfield. And I just can't buy into the fact that Everton play like that, because I think we can do a lot better. That midfield role, though, I mean, you are pushed to find a duo in the midfield of any Premier League side to beat them and I think that's where you do look at who we had and what we had available and think, do you know what? It's going to be really, really difficult, to say the very least, to be better than that duo.
Yeah, and I was terrified before the game with that midfield of Garner and Erabun, purely because of what had happened against Newcastle when they got completely overrun. But both of them played really well together in this. A lot's been made of Ndiaye missing, and a lot's been made of Garner missing, obviously, at the AFCON, but Dewsbury Hall was the big one in the midfield, because until he got injured, he'd been making that midfield tick for those few games that Garner had not been there, and we'd looked a lot better with him in. But like you said there, I think we'll come back onto Erabun and Michael Keane as well in a minute. But like you said, the thing that frustrated me was we didn't get at them enough. We didn't stick the boots in enough. We didn't get in the faces. There were a couple of tackles early on where we did go in pretty hard on them, took them out. They stayed on the floor. The ref let it go, which surprised me, but he was another like regen referee who've never heard of and don't want to read off again because he was crap. But it just frustrated me that we didn't do that thing that we need to do against Arsenal. And we've done every season, we've beat them. That's how we've played. We've been in the face, made it absolutely horrible for them. And we didn't do that. And the one thing that really, really, really annoyed me was Arsenal, like I said, they like to break up the play. They like to disrupt any team's rhythm. Like you say, Dave, they are one of the best in Europe, but it's hard to see them as one of the best in Europe because they're just efficient. They're not nice to watch, are they? They're just an efficient team who do like the nasty things quite well, or do the nasty things really well. And that includes breaking up the game, going down with injuries and stuff like that. And there was one point in the game where one of their players went down. They kicked it out eventually, and we gave it them back. It's like, can we stop doing that? You know, fair enough. If you've gone through someone, if an Everton player's gone through someone, totally taken them out and injured them, okay, give them the ball back then if they put it out because it's cut and dried. When you know a team like Arsenal are coming to you and they're going to be playing those tactics, don't give them the ball back.
Yeah,
I just think we're a soft touch still like that, aren't we? And that's the sort of thing you need to get out of your system with this team. And Lauren, I can't see that changing with us ever because we've always been the same, haven't we?
Yeah, and do you know what? There was when linking to that point, what you just made for the penalty, the penalty appeal, the only person who threw his hands up in the air after Tierno Barry got kicked was Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish is everywhere throwing his hands up. And I turned around to mate because I'm 50-50 on whether it was a penalty or not. Because I think for me, if it was given against us, I'd be fuming because I think the defenders made an attempt to clear the ball. However, if it was given, I would have been fine. Like obviously because it's for us, but I would have been fine with it being given. You've seen them.
Just quickly on that, I think the fact that he never had the ball under control and the ball was up in the air and it wasn't, he didn't have it under control. So that kick, although I can see why it probably should have been given, I can see why it wasn't.
And we'll probably see a similar incident next week and it's given, you know, and we'll all be looking back.
You know, I'm not saying he needs to have the ball under control to get a penalty because he did kick him when he was late. But when I saw it as well, I thought the one where he was running into the box was worse. I know that was just outside the area, it turned out. But we'll come on to that in a minute anyway, because that was a definite sending off for me. But go on, sorry.
Yeah, well, like just about the one player who threw his hands up, as I said, was Jack Grealish. And I turned around to my mates and I said, you can see there why he's being a top class player and why he's been at the clubs he's been at. Not just because of his ability and how great he is, but these top players have got this, I don't know, this sort of mentality or this thing about them where they know, I don't want to call it the dark art, but they know what to do and they're cute, they're intelligent in certain situations. None of our players, other players have switched on to that, only him. And the Cities and Arsenals and all these teams, they've got 11 of them on the pitch. And I think like you've just perfectly said then, when we've given them the ball back, that screamed to me of not quite being nasty enough, not quite being savvy enough. Yeah, and that's one thing we've rued for years as Evertonians, isn't it? And I think we just need to be that little bit at times, that little bit cuter, that little bit more intelligent. That these are the 1%ers that get you over the line at times, and then the difference between being a top team and a really, really top team, which what Arsenal are proven to be this season. So little things like that, yeah, definitely frustrating. And I just want to quickly go back to when I was saying before about the difference in the two teams. And whilst I do think that there's a massive gulf in quality between us and Arsenal, of course there is. I am with you, by the way, when I fully agree. I don't think we were in their faces enough because I was saying pre-game, it's got all the makings of a classic Everton 1-0, scruffy goal, backs to the wall, and then, heroic Saturday night performance. And it just never had that feel to it the whole time. So as much as they are that much better than us, it would have been nice, wouldn't it, to just seeing that little bit more determination from us to maybe force a little bit of an opportunity, but to go away from that with only one shot on target, bit of a lame duck performance, bit flat. It should have been bouncing nearly all round, not just in the stands but on the pitch as well, and it wasn't, and that was the frustrating thing, definitely.
Yeah, I'll tell you what then, we'll come on to that now. I was going to save it till later, but we'll come on to the atmosphere at the new ground, because a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but the old Twitter echo chamber, there were people coming out and saying, like, the atmosphere at the new ground, terrible. It's not unlike Goodison. It's never going to be anything like Goodison. And like, I hate to break it to these people, it's not because you're not sitting next to the group of people you were sat with. That's not why the atmosphere has not been good. It's because the team isn't performing good. Forest, it was bouncing. Last 20 against Palace, it was bouncing. Brighton wasn't maybe bouncing, but the atmosphere was great. It takes the team for me to sort of set the tone, and I don't think they did at all on at the weekend. Like I said, we didn't really have show any attacking intent. I mean, Barry went through on that one and he got fouled. What probably should have been a penalty, like we said. But apart from that, we didn't do too much, and there didn't seem to be the attacking intent there to get the crowd off the feet. Likewise, in those moments where a player throws a challenge in, there was none of that really. There was one Michael Keane did on the halfway line. I think when Beto gave the ball away, like towards the end of the second half, and he put in that punching tackle. But even then, it just didn't seem enough because, like I said, Arsenal, they've got a real knack of how to just break the game down and just completely disrupt any sort of momentum and take the sting out of everything. So I think for me, that's the issue with the atmosphere on Saturday. Like I said, in previous games, it's been absolutely fine. Dave, where are you on this? Because I'm getting a bit fed up of this idea that Goodison was a brilliant atmosphere every week and the atmosphere was great there. It largely wasn't, was it? It was shite for 90% of the time. And then you get 2, 3, 4 games a season where it'd be great. One of them usually would be Arsenal, funnily enough. But then that's where the game itself set the tone for that atmosphere for me, because it was a backs to the wall performance and we were flying into challenges and we did show attacking intent in most of those games.
Yeah, it's a chicken and egg argument. I think we've had for quite some time. It sort of rears its ugly head, doesn't it? Because you'd like to think of Everton as one of those teams in the Premier League that it's a really difficult place to come to, which again, it's a cliche because it's the way in which the atmosphere, cesspit, all that sort of thing, that I think that sort of thing, it's really quite a lazy thing to say if you're looking at the way we are as a fan base at home. I feel as if when people say it, and look, we're all guilty of it. I don't care if you go into there and you can't speak, but you want to create a good atmosphere, you go in and do it. It's not. It's funny to come out and complain about things that you can actually make a difference about yourself. And look, I know I'm not saying that. Look, you go in as one person and start screaming and shouting, and everybody else around is going to do the same thing. But to that effect, if you're a gang of you are all there and you see, and how many times you heard it, someone starts a song. Yeah. There's always one person that starts a song. Now, when you can do that, why does that have to be an issue in terms of sit there and complain about the way in which the atmosphere is? Now, having said that, you need something to scream at and shout at. I don't like the idea that every single fan's the same. I don't like the idea that we should all do it as a community together, because everybody will have a different opinion. We're 3 lads here having a different say on what's going on in the game. Therefore, that would affect what you're saying and doing. You heard me booing my head off the other night because of refereeing decisions and stuff like that. But I like what the 1878 is doing a brilliant job. Everything like that. Everything's there. The foundations are there. So I don't quite get why it gets so severe in the extent of what the complaints about the atmosphere get. And to your point about Goodison, I think it's like this with most teams, Les. I don't think that Everton at Goodison and Everton, we all want to say how different we are. We all want to say how special we are. Absolutely, we believe that. We buy into all of that. But again, you're a group of a few thousand human beings here, and that's what the crux of it all is. You want to change something, you go ahead and change it yourself. Yes, that is influenced by what you're watching on the pitch, but you pay your money, you take your choice, you go on the pitch and do what you go into the stand, scream your head off, and do what you want to an extent, of course.
Yeah, or you might get anyone getting any of those yellow stickers still, by the way.
It should be you after what you were saying.
Why? What was that? I was just threatening to kill you off the mailbag. That's all. By the way, Dave, I've won my France top for you again.
I know. You come in with his hospital top on there. What do you think of it?
That's a nice.
You know what? I think the club need to come out and explain those yellow stickers. I mean, this is totally going off on a tangent, but a lot of people were moaning about that. But it looked to me like it was because of I don't know, bigoted abuse. Not just calling the referee a prick. I got the idea that was because you'd said something completely offhand. If anyone knows what they're for, by the way, let us know. Because I think that was sort of taken a bit out of context when people were saying, oh my God, the club are clamping down on people shouting. I don't think that's what it was, but I'm not entirely sure. I did like the fact that the stickers had Goodison Park on as well instead of Everton Stadium. There we go.
That's got to be the most Everton thing ever. Maybe that's why to just get them.
Lads, we've got like 5,000 stickers in the back here. What are we going to do with them? Just slap them on the seat. It's fine. Just shit them up, put them on the seat. Warren, just on the ground. Then we said, like before Dave came on, I was saying like the main thing for me is that the team haven't dipped like at home, because we've been pretty good. There's been, you know, West Ham and Villa were frustrating. Newcastle was shite. Arsenal wasn't great, but by and large, I think our home form is already better than last season, isn't it? I think the tifo looked brilliant at the weekend. A lot of people saying, you know, it's not for me, and that's fine. You know, things like that aren't for everyone. But I thought it looked great, and you know, even like the light show and stuff, it's not Everton at all. It's not very Everton. But I've said this. I did a couple of shows with Gav and Roger and Sarah from Minton. We're talking about what does it mean to be like what do you mean when we want our Everton back? I don't think we do want our Everton back. We need something new, don't we? We don't need to always be harking back to Goodison. That's gone. It's in the past. We need to build something new, don't we?
Yeah, and you're talking to someone here who misses Goodison deeply and who misses the whole thing around Goodison deeply. But even I accept that it's now in the past, and we can't have it both ways. I was talking the other day about the fact that now it seems that we're embracing all these different, you know, there's a new commercial deal being announced today, I've seen as well. And we've got all these commercial deals coming.
We've got is there artificial high vis partner in Rigger boots or something?
artificial Stoke Teal. I can't even say it. Steel toe cap partner. But
Steel toe cap partner.
This is what the point I'm making though, is that we for years said Everton aren't behaving like a big club. Why aren't we doing the things that Liverpool are doing or all these other teams are doing? And now we finally, I believe, behind the scenes, laying the foundations for us to behave and perform like a big club. And you walk around the ground and, you know, if you do a lap around the ground, everything's set up for Everton for lift-off. But with that comes the complete difference from where we were at Goodison. Now, we are becoming more corporate and we are becoming more... It's not going to be the old days of you turn up at the ground, you get your ticket, you go in and you go home afterwards. You know, it's you know, even now, how many people did you used to see hang around Goodison after the match? No one. But now there's the people hanging around after the match, before the match, buying and spending money at the ground, which is what the club wants, because they want that money in rather than, you know, from outside you know, other venues or other places. So we can't have it both ways, because we are going to generate a load of money with that. But at the same token, it's going to be, with you doing that, it's going to be completely far removed away from Goodison. It just is. Now, in terms of the atmosphere, like I said earlier, it is going to take a while for everyone to readjust. It was always going to be that way. To put a positive on it, if you look back at teams like, well, even when Arsenal first moved to the Emirates, when Southampton left the Dell and went to St Mary's, they're just two. You know, Middlesbrough, I think they struggled for a while when they moved to their new ground 20, 30 years ago, whenever it was.
Coventry almost went bust.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of issues with clubs moving stadium. And I think I was worried. I thought last season Goodison we'd go unbeaten all season at home. Because I just thought...
I love your optimism, Warren, is the best thing.
Because we will. I just thought last season Goodison, we'll turn it on. And then I thought, do you know what, we might see some indifferent performances this season, because you just do when you move to a new stadium.
Yeah.
I think, for me, I think we've done all right at home. I really do. You know, like you said there, a couple of frustrating draws against Villa and West Ham when we probably should have won them games, because Villa, I know they're flying now, but at the time, they were struggling. They hadn't scored a goal in the Premier League for 5 games or something, and they were struggling at the time. West Ham were all over the place. I know they just got Nuno in, but I felt we should have won that game. You look at the Spurs game now, and that was so frustrating, because, again, I think we played well, and they're not a great team at the minute, are they? And we probably should have got a result there. I think the ones for me where we probably deserved the defeats were Arsenal and Newcastle, because I don't think we deserved to win them games. So I think we've relatively done all right. The other point I'd like to make as well is I think we've had a relatively tough set of fixtures at home so far. I mean, if you look at it, the set of games we've had before we actually played them, you look at Villa, tough start, tough game. Brighton was always going to be a really awkward game when we got over that. We've had Newcastle, we've had Arsenal, we've had Spurs at home. So that's there's some heavy clubs coming through.
The recent home form against West Ham's not been great either the last few years. So
we've had some tough starts really, and I'm just looking at the fixtures now coming up, for our next set of home games. We've got Brentford on the 4th. Then we've got Wolves on the Wednesday afterwards. So Brentford, I know they're doing okay, but you'd feel like we could get a result against them. Wolves, obviously, rock bottom at the minute, should be getting a win against them. Sunderland then in the Cup, I think they'll make a whole loads of changes in the Cup. I think that's a really good opportunity for us to progress.
And then we've got Leeds as well. That's the problem.
I said this at the weekend. Moyes will somehow put out an even more weakened team than Sunderland, and they've got 8 players at Everton or something.
And then after that, we've got Leeds at home. I know they've had a bit of resurgence at the minute, but you'd fancy us against Leeds at home. And then Bournemouth is the home game after that. For me, they're games that I look at every single one of them games I just mentioned. They go, fancy us here, fancy us for 3 points with the players we've got. So, although there's been questions about the atmosphere, I think we've had a relatively tough set of fixtures. I think we've done really well to be in the top half by Christmas, by the way, considering where we've been in the past few seasons. And I look at them, and I know the Everton in us will think that we'll slip up somewhere, like we'll probably give Wolves the first victory or something like that, because that's the Everton in us. But I do look at them fixtures at home coming up, and I think they're winnable. Every single one of them are winnable. So to put a positive on it, there's reasons to look up. And you know as well as me, you too, if we get a set of results in them games at home, the atmosphere will be bouncing and we'll be all up for it again.
Yeah. We've got a big opportunity here. We've got a big opportunity to fly up the league, because this like, it did feel like get Chelsea and Arsenal out the way, and then we've got some handy looking fixtures coming up. Now I know you just can't predict what will happen. Like you say, Warren, it will be classic time for Everton for them to more than double Wolves' current points tally.
But below us in the league, by the way.
What's that?
All those sides are below us in the league.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you look at games like Arsenal at home, like you said, one of the best teams in Europe, probably going to beat us. We might do something, but the chances are they'll beat us. Chelsea away, I think we should have done better there, but it was Chelsea away, and they always seem to beat us by and large. I think if you look at these fixtures coming up, we should be looking at them thinking, do you know what? Yeah, we should beat them. And I think as fans as well, we need to get out of that mindset that we need to start thinking, right, it's Brentford, it's Wolves, it's Sunderland, who are doing well, but will be depleted. Let's just go and have all 3. So before we'll move on to Burnley now. Actually, we'll move on to the Burnley game, because that's next.
I was just going to say, Les, just before you move on to Burnley, you can talk about those fixtures there that Warren's just reeled off. It's the ones after it that I'm more worried about.
I haven't looked that far. Let's not look that far yet.
No, but you know who comes
we got then City, United, Liverpool, everyone else.
Exactly, everyone else rocks up then, don't they?
So it's Arsenal away, not at the end of the season.
But it's always Arsenal away.
But Spurs on the last day we've got away.
Yeah.
But the point that Warren's making there, I think it's perfectly valid that. But you've got to make hay while the sun shines with those. I mean, look at. Let's face it. I think it's a very, very strange place within this season, because I've said that people might get sick of listening to me saying it, but the opportunities are there sitting in your face, and you can take them. It doesn't take much to go and do it. You get 6 points, you're near the top 4. That position's there, and it's been. Yeah. I've never seen a league like this before. How close the teams are, and having said that, I mean, if we're talking about having a bog standard mid-table season, like I came away from that and I just said, like, frustratingly, give me 10th to 12th right now, and then give me a ring next summer. But I'm still looking at it, thinking there's opportunities there to be taken.
Yeah,
and it doesn't take Crystal Palace were the main example I was looking at. I think they hit 5th or 4th 3 weeks ago, then lost the next 3 games, and now they're below us or just above us.
They're 2 points ahead of us still.
Yeah, it's crazy the way it's a campaign that you normally see when the first 4 or 5 games, everybody's up and down because they haven't got into a true position yet.
Yeah,
and it's there for the taking. And we're talking about these issues with fans sort of setting up and getting into a real natural feeling when we go to our home stadium. I just hate the feeling of, like, how many times you do it every season when you're looking at the review. you're thinking, we should have got points here, we should have got points there, and it's
I think-
happening. It's happening really, really quickly for my liking.
Yeah, I think the frustrating thing for me would be, is if we get into those last couple of months of the season and we're not still in with a shout to like finishing 8th or something like that, because we're within touching distance of it now, and I think it would take a pretty big drop off for us to not be keeping pace. But I think that would be the disappointment for me, because having the way the league's gone, I wouldn't have expected to be anywhere near where we are now. By the way, I thought we'd be in like 13th, 14th, maybe.
But if we
we're only 2 points off 14th, by the way, but it's that close. It's like you just need to keep that momentum going, and we've got a good chance to do that. Burnley, go ahead, Dave. Sorry, what?
I was just going to say to readdress what we said at the start of the season when we all do our predictions. I bet I think everyone who does anything on our show and spoke about where they think Everton will finish, I think they're lying if they thought that Everton would still be in the same place that they started with, giving a look at that stadium, because I think I said something like 14th or something like that. If Everton finished 14th, I think that's a massive issue. I think you look at Moyes and what's going to go forward here, because that's obviously going to be the conversation, isn't it, as the season goes on? Moyes good enough? Do we want him to keep us and things? If Everton was to finish 14th, given what we've seen at almost halfway through the season right now, I'll be massively disappointed. I think you're at least 4 or 5 places below where you would be if Everton were to finish in that place. And then, by and large, the other side of that, the flip of that coin is, if you are what I've just said you should be, that's when you are battling for European positions. So they're sitting there. They're sitting there like a plucking duck, waiting to be taken by some side. I don't care where it is. But then, again, I mean, it's quite a... I don't know. It's quite a difficult aspect to talk about, isn't it? Because then you start throwing the conversation in at Everton ready to play in Europe. I don't care if Everton.
Well, yeah,
you get Everton in Europe tomorrow. I want Everton in Europe.
Yeah, I think the thing for me with that is we've got owners now, and I think we're in a position where they could back us to get the right players. We couldn't have a transfer window like we did last summer, because that's kind of coming to bite us on the arse a little bit now, isn't it? Because it's like there are still the massive holes in the squad that there always have been, and the players that we bought in aren't all getting played. So we'll move on to Burnley now with that in mind. I just want to pick up on my hot take from last week, by the way, where I said it's time to drop Michael Keane and put Jake O'Brien in the team, which I thought was perfectly reasonable at the time, because Jake O'Brien played well as centre-back against Bournemouth. He's not a right-back. I will stand by it to a degree and say it's time to definitely stop playing Jake O'Brien at right-back, because it just isn't working. The thing with Keane is, and people said this to me at the time after it said it, he's been arguably our best player of the season, certainly one of them. I think in this game, he won the most interceptions, he won the most headers, he was like
great
top
again.
of the defender stats for everything in this game. He was outstanding. Another one as well, I probably owe an apology to, was Tim Rabunum. But he's been very up and down, to be fair. But I think in this game, like I said earlier, I was absolutely terrified of him and James Garner in the middle, because I thought they'd get just overrun by Declan Rice and Odegaard. But they never. And if you look at Rabunum's stats, 6 out of 7 tackles won, 2 interceptions, 8 out of 11 duels won. All these stats are first and first and first. So it's like both of those players had a good game. I think Rabunum's still going to be a little bit up and down because he is a young player. And I just, in that position he's playing in as well, centre mid, it's a really tough position to play in. Warren, looking ahead to the Burnley game then, how do you see this going? Do we go with the same team we put out against Arsenal, bearing in mind that Burnley away, the sort of team they are, it's probably going to be more like playing Forest, isn't it? When we play Forest at home and battered them. But do we need to do something different there?
I think team-wise, you'll probably end up doing something similar. I wouldn't be surprised to see the same team again, for many reasons, but mostly because we don't have every player to our disposal. The only change I can possibly see is Mail and Roll maybe coming in for Rabunum if he feels he's been doing well in training and he's built up his fitness. But that would be harsh on Rabunum because he did play well. And I think you could be slightly forgiven for your hot take on Rabunum, Les, because I think the showing against Newcastle, he was woeful. So I think there was a little bit of concern maybe bringing him in. But yeah, he did play really bad. I thought he did do decent against Arsenal, and I think we certainly got the better of the deal, swapping him and Lewis Dobbins. So yeah, so I think he'll go similar. I think you said it earlier. You know, we're a different. We've got to behave like a different club now. I know us as fans have got to play our part. And I think in years gone by, I would have looked at Burnley and I would have thought, oh God, here we go. They've already played well. Dr. Everton will turn up. They'll get a victory. But we've got to go into this and go, do you know what? We should go in and win this. We should be the dominant team going away from home against the promoted team who are struggling. They were I know they scored the last kick of the game against Bournemouth, but they were a minute or two away from having their worst worst run of defeats as a club in their existence. I think they had lost 6 in a row or something like that ever.
Yeah.
So they're not a good team. They're not. And we should go there with the intent of going, we're Everton, we're going to beat you today, and we're going to show why we're going to beat you today. We've got better play. Same way we were talking about Arsenal earlier, having better players than us. We've got better players than Burnley, even with the absentees that we've got. So we should very much be looking forward to going there and getting the 3 points. I think that we've got to find a way of scoring and creating more, though. We have to. One of the things that Moyes did when he first came back to the club was he got us scoring again. And he's fit, you know, I think back to the Spurs game last season when we won 3-2, we 3-0 up at half time. And we were kind of like, where's this old man Moyes come from? We're not used to this. And I think we just didn't look like scoring under Dyche, and we hadn't looked like scoring. And there's a little bit of that to a degree now in certain games. We've got to find a way of creating. I think if we score first, we'll win the game. Simple as that. Because I think we'll just knock them for 6 and their confidence for 6. But we've got to find a way. I think for me, my hot take, I'd start Beto.
Yeah.
Not because I personally think Tierno Barry's done anything wrong. I actually thought he did all right. He won a few duels again on against Arsenal at the last game. But I think it's probably now time for a run for Beto. I think Tierno Barry's had, 8 games or something like that on the spin now where he started. I know they're both not playing well, but I think maybe just again something a bit different, freshen up a little bit. We've got games coming up thick and fast. We've got a couple of games where then we've got a midweek game following up afterwards. Then we've got the cup game. I think a little change there for me would be something I'd like to see. Not necessarily because I think Beto will go and score a hat-trick or anything like that. I just think maybe just fresh legs, something a bit different, something a bit of a different prospect for Burnley to think about. But if I could quickly just, before Dave gives his view on the match, we talked about the fixtures coming up. We're on, at the minute, 24 points. Now, the next 4 fixtures, we've got a Burnley, Forest, Brentford at home, Wolves at home. So that's our next, out of a possible 12 there. I could see us getting 8 points. I think we will get 8 points out of the next 4 games. That'll take us on to 32 points with 17 games left. Now, bear in mind, we had 34 points to stay up the other year when we stayed up against Bournemouth. 32 points with 17 games left. I think that sets us up brilliantly for the second half of the season. Because in then 17 games, if you can somehow get 10, 15 points, which, you know, we'd have to be a really bad run for us to not get that, we're looking at close to 50 points. And in the past, 50 points or 51, 52 points has got you European football. So I know the league's very tight, and Dave's always says it on this show, and he's made a great point when he says how tight it is. I mean, you know, there's 9 points separating 15th and 4th, and anyone who goes on a run can get right up there. But if we can get 8 points from the next 4 games, and this is why it's not always the worst thing, picking up a draw or getting a result here and there, because you're just building up. 32 points going in with 17 games left. I would have bitten your hand off at the start of the season for that, and I think that'll really set us up. Bearing in mind the injuries we've got, bearing in mind the squad deficiencies we've got, lack of fullbacks, lack of striker, lack of whatever else we've got, I think that would represent a brilliant first half of the season for Everton, something we can really build on going forward.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, we can plug a few gaps in January, even. So, you know, we could solve the fullback issue at some point in January. You know, we could maybe get another striker in on loan. We could make that team better to go at those 17 games, and it does put a different complexion on everything, doesn't it? When you think because that 8 points shouldn't be insurmountable in those games, we should definitely be targeting at least that.
And I think, you know, Everton might not get 8 points from the next few games. They could surprise us and get 12. They could surprise us even. Well, they probably wouldn't surprise if they only got 3 because we're used to. But you know what I'm trying to say? We should be aiming for
I agree.
And I think we should be. And we're probably capable of getting more than 8 in the next 4 fixtures. But I'm just saying, if we were to only get 8, maybe even 6, I think that sets us up really well for the second half.
Yeah, I agree. Dave, going into Burnley then. I want to pick up on Jack Grealish because he's a player you've come out and said, and I agree, that gets a little bit problematic at times when it's sort of like he seems to be just kept on that left wing for the sake of him being Jack Grealish and he plays on the left wing. I think in this game, if he's not getting any joy, certainly, or even to start, maybe try something else. Maybe put him in that 10. I don't know. What do you think?
Put him on the bench.
Would you?
I'd put him on the... Do you know, players get free passes all over the place. Now, I'm not going that deep with Grealish, but I think the theme of what we've spoken about here in the last 40 odd minutes has been how we need to change things, just mix things up, do different things. Look, maybe I'm going a little bit too far with this, but players sometimes need a break from what is going to be expected of them. When everything from Arsenal all the way down to Wolves, they're going to play Everton and expect Jack Grealish to be playing on the left-hand side.
Yeah,
that's an issue in itself, because you know that's where you're going to stop the majority of Everton's threat, particularly while Alan Dyer is out as well. And that's a different issue in itself because given how good he's been and many clubs are looking at him already, they're going to be thinking this is where we need to double up on him. And even games like this, I mean, maybe not games like this. I mean, will he come up against his old mate Carl Walker?
He will, won't he? Yeah, he'll be on the right back, won't he? Yeah.
Now that'll be interesting to see what happens there because obviously they've got history and success together. When they were was he still there? Yeah, he was still there, wasn't he? Yeah. And I think you're right in what you said there. In general, if he's going to Burnley and not putting it together and getting at least an assist or a man of the match performance where he's just been untouchable, then that's when you do start looking at things being mixed up a little bit. I think without going as deep as I said there, or as far as I said there, I think I'd like to see him in a 10. That's the first thing I'd like to see there. Game like Burnley away too is where you'd start dribbling instead of McNeil. Saying as we were walking out, or just before the game finished, Les, about the players we've signed there in the summer, you spend the best part of 100 million quid on dribbling, Barry, and who's the other one? Oh, sorry, including Beto as well. So there's nearly 100 million quid in the last 2 seasons. And what have we got for it? Now, dribbling, you put to one side, of course. The fact that he's not getting the chance as well is an issue that I think is probably another discussion elsewhere. But you're talking about putting Grealish into a 10. Okay, that opens a role over there. Maybe you go and give him a try. You start him there. You start blooding him in properly rather than give him 10 minutes, 15 minutes left. But he, will admit he does look like a rabbit in headlights when he's come on. Looks like he's a little bit too scared to try something. He just lays it off. I'd like to see. Hopefully, that's why you should have a manager who's great at doing that. Top class managers get the best out of players like that. Talent who you've just signed for a hell of a lot of money. I mean, Burnley aren't a good side at all. They're really not a good side. They're one of the sides that I think will still go down. I know they're in the bottom 3. I don't think Scott Parker has a clue what he's doing. I don't know how he keeps getting these jobs where he'll get a team promoted to the Premier League and then they'll just go straight back down. So, Everton should go there. I'll be fuming if we don't get 3 points from that game. Absolutely fuming because that's what everyone else is going to go and do. And this is what I'm starting to think about here. Just go off on a bit of a tangent, what you mentioned there, Warren, about the amount of points, getting 8 from those next few games. What will it be? It'll be 7th, at least 7th will get you a European spot. That's on 26 right now. You double that, say 52, 55, and we played 17, haven't we? When things get to that stage, that's when I'm looking at Everton thinking, just come on, for fuck's sake, pull yourselves together here and just win a few games. And you're speaking about, it's funny that we talk about this, and it's like you said, you bite your hand off for some of the situations we're in now, Warren. You go back to the last 4 years, say, and Everton were in this league position now, and you said Everton will go and get 34, 35 points after 20 games, you'd be like, yeah, give me it right now. I'll go on my holidays.
It's the season we've all wished for years, isn't it? This one.
Yeah.
It is.
That's how fickle fans are now. I'm sitting here screaming that we should be involved in a Champions League chase. But I'm saying that, but so's that league table. The league table is telling me. The league table's drawing me in. It's bringing me in like a moth to a flame.
Well,
I think Everton have got massive chances there.
I think we said last week.
Look at that side. I'm thinking, just fucking do something.
I think we said last week, there's nothing wrong with resetting your expectations. We went into, like we said, we went into the season saying, just give us a boring mid-table season, no drama. But then when it gets to this point, and it's like, do you know what? We are we're 3 points off sixth.
Whichever way you say it, there's like X amount of points off X position.
Yeah.
Right,
or by the same token, just for we're 4 points off 15th.
There you go. It's every single show. Every show we're having those conversations about that.
The thing is, though, if you can't get to this point now and look up, and because I'm not even considering finishing any lower now than 10th, maybe 12th. I'm not considering that. If you can't get to this position now and just reset your expectations and think, you know what, we've got a chance here. Let's just look up. It's like, can you really get any joy out of football? Because it's hard enough at the best of times, and this is as good as we've had it. So.
But this is why I can't get too upset and too down about the results against Chelsea and Arsenal. Chelsea, a team where we've notoriously been awful at in terms of an away ground.
Well, we were at that 6-0 last year, weren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then Arsenal, the best team in Europe at the minute because the top of the Champions League table and top of the Premier League. So I can't get too upset. But even after those two games, we're coming out going, if only we did this, if only we did that. Because look, do you know what? For spells against Chelsea, I thought we played really, really well. We hit the post, we had chances. The one where it goes onto Barry's legs when it's being crossed. It's not like we're being outclassed at the minute. With these little things which are just the difference between us and the top clubs that are keeping us apart. So I failed to get. I mean, I stupidly said that I thought we'd get at least one win against one of the two teams there, Chelsea and Arsenal, and that's come back to bite me. But I can't help but be hopeful at the start we've made, and like you said, you're not a football fan if you don't, you haven't got hope. Because what's the point? What's the point in even being a football fan if you never have hope? And my hope is the second half of the season. I do think we'll fall a bit short of Europe. I just will, but it will be for all the frustration that we'll feel of that, and what Dave mentions about the leagues there for the taking this season. It will be frustrating if we miss out, but I can't. Me personally, if we were to finish, say, 9th and we miss out on Europe and we look back and we go, we'd have only done that, I can't get too disappointed. I won't feel too disappointed with that because I just can't. Yeah. I was listening to the Good Times pod the other week at the 2023-24 season, I think it was, that they did, saying about, and it was all about the 10-point deduction. They were horrible years to be an Evertonian. We really were in the worst of it. And I know people get frustrated, I know people get annoyed, I know people want us to kick on, and we're so desperate for success as a fan base, and we're so impatient for it, and rightly so. We've waited a long time, but I feel it's going to be a gradual thing. It can't happen overnight, and I know we all want it to, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should be targeting more and having a higher expectation. I don't know. But I just feel this season, I think we've already made a really good first half of the season, and I can't get too disappointed by the last two defeats, because I think in time, Everton will be a bit like a Newcastle or a Villa, where we eventually build and climb our way up and be a successful team like them two teams have been in the last few years.
Is it a higher expectation? No, because it's only by what we're literally looking at in terms of a number. Higher expectation there, like you said, Warren, it's not too difficult. Maybe that's the wrong term. It's not too difficult for us to go and get over 50 points, would you say? That's sort of what you were saying.
Yeah. I think that's a realistic aim for the second half of the season.
It should be, shouldn't it? It should be.
That's a European position, or near as damn it, a European position, if you're able to go like and in the current way that the league's running right now. So all we're talking about there is numbers. It's the mathematical side of it that we're looking at and saying, well, we could be here, we could be there. But if that's achievable, Everton are able to go and do that, and you'd be disappointed if we don't.
Yeah.
that catapults you into those positions, and that's what gets me. And the other thing I wanted to include in this is, what are the manager now? What does Moyes have to do to get into a role that all of us are like, yeah, he stays in? Obviously, he's probably going to stay anyway. But us as fans, you're looking at it thinking, well, Everton are going to progress. Everton already have progressed. Now, we don't have to particularly do too much to be in a better position in a literal sense than we were when we finished last season, when he came in halfway through. But when we're talking about these opportunities, we're talking about going to 50 odd points. We're talking about how the chances are there to go and get positions possibly. Where does what's the lowest effect there for Moyes, where we're looking at it thinking that's fine, we'll go into next season? Are you still saying it, top half or top half of the bottom half? What's he got to do there for us to keep faith with him? Because that's where I think there's a whole different load of angles you can go off here with what Moyes and the expectations are just on him than everything else that's going on in the league.
For me, I think he needs to do the same as he's done this first half, really. I know we've moaned some weeks and been like frustrated with results, but looking at it objectively, 24 points after 17 games, that's sound. But for the team we are, where we've been, we finished in real terms 12th or something the last couple of seasons, haven't we? So it's an improvement on that, and it's a gradual improvement. And like Warren said, for me, if we do replicate this half of the season again, finish on 48, 50 points, something like that, that sets us up nicely for another summer where we can really build again. I don't know what you think, Warren.
No, I was just thinking then, I've made it a bit of almost the theme of this show about these next set of games coming up. And to your point, Dave, to what you asked me then about how it occurs to David Moyes, or how it appeals to David Moyes. If we get 8 points or more out these next 4 games, which I've gone on about a lot during this show, I would probably be disappointed if we didn't get at least a top half finish. Now, when I say top half finish, I'd like to be thinking very close, if not on the button, for European places. That's quite a big thing to say, because I didn't expect at the start of the season Everton to get anywhere near Europe. I thought it'd be a season where we get to where, a stability point of view, and then, like Les has just said, then we build on for next summer. However, I caveat that with how the league is this year. There's so many inconsistencies this year. You look at, I think that the teams at the top will look after themselves, because they always will. But you look at Newcastle, for instance. Newcastle are below us. I think they're a point below us now. And Newcastle, I feel, have got a better. I think they've massively underperformed this season.
Yeah.
And you look at them in some games, and they've been absolutely brilliant. Like, they played really well for the first half against Chelsea. Obviously, lose them 2 goals, but that's not a bad point at home to Chelsea. But they were woeful against Sunderland. They were awful. Yeah. And they've had a lot of games like that where they'll win 1, draw 1, lose the next 2. They've had a lot of that this season. And if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be fuming that they're not above Everton at the minute, from where we are and they are as 2 different teams and the players we've got and all that sort of thing. So if we can get 8 points or more out these next 4 games, I would be very, very angry if we weren't in the top half come the end of the season. I'd be very disappointed. I'd be disappointed. I wouldn't be very disappointed. I'd be disappointed if we missed out on Europe. Would I be disappointed if we missed out on you? I'd be very. Let's just leave it at. I'd be very disappointed if we didn't make top 10. If we were to get them amount of points, which we should have, because we've had all the. I forgot to mention the Crystal Palace, because if you remember at the time when we played Palace, they were 18 games unbeaten.
Yeah,
so we've had a really tough set of games at home. We need to now, and there shouldn't be an excuse now. We need to kick on, because we've got, on paper, an easier set of fixtures, particularly at home.
Yeah,
we've got players who will eventually come back from AFCON. The 2 players will eventually come back from AFCON, so that will instantly strengthen the squad. We will, I think, add maybe 1 or 2 in January, and we might just address 1 or 2 positions, and hopefully that will make us stronger. So it's all but you can only base your judgments on what the first half has been. And the first half of the season, I feel, has been very promising. So if we can do and replicate the second, which I feel we're more than capable of, that would be really good for me. And I think that sets Moyes up for the second season. However, like I said, I think I would be disappointed if we didn't finish top half now. To get to the halfway point and be 10th, I would be disappointed if we didn't finish that.
You haven't got to do that much with the squad we've got there. Have you seen like our numbers are pathetic when you look at it? There's only 2 teams who've scored less amount of goals than us in that division.
Well, yeah, it's obviously where the issues are.
One of them's Wolves who are gone. Wolves are gone, and the other one's Forest.
Right, so let me, if you don't mind, Les. Sorry to take the rails a little bit.
Go on, mate. Fine.
Here. Can I do a quick game with Dave? And actually, guys, you can join in if you want. If I read through all the clubs in the league, and just a yes if you think they're better than us, or a no if they're not. So if you think they're better than us, just say yes. Right. Okay. So Arsenal, yes.
Yeah.
City, yes. Villa,
yeah.
Yes.
Chelsea,
yes.
Yeah.
Liverpool,
yes.
No. Sunderland,
no.
I think the team's actually better than us. I don't know. But that one actually. He had a really good summer, but no, they shouldn't be.
We'll say no.
Yeah.
United,
no.
Palace,
I'd say no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brighton.
No.
I'd say we're probably identical with Brighton. I'll say no for Brighton.
Okay. Newcastle.
I'm forgetting. Do I say yes or no? I think Newcastle.
So if you think they're better than us, say yes.
Yes.
I think Newcastle are better than us. Yeah.
Brentford.
No.
Spurs.
No, not as they are now.
Should be, but no.
Bournemouth.
No.
Fulham.
No.
Leeds.
No.
Forest.
No.
West Ham.
No.
Burnley.
No.
Wolves.
No. Where are we finishing?
Are we top of the league here?
So that's 12 no's, which puts us 8th in the table.
And if anyone wants to go back to our summer preview show, as ever, I said we finish 8th. I'm going to be right one year. I'm telling you, I am going to be right one.
Look, 8th could get us Europe. You never know.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, there's a high chance it does because there's that many teams, the Premier League teams in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And a few in Europa as well. I'm happy to get to this piss poor division and go and win it.
Well, is it a poor league? I think it's a great league at the minute. It's just purely on the competitiveness of it.
I mean,
everyone's outside the top 3 might not be great at the minute, but I think in terms of a division, this is what you want really. It's
Metal is Kharkiv in there.
They're not
next season, Dave. might be next season. Right, I'll just quickly finish on some stats. So our last 10 at Turf Moor, I've seen us win 3 times, 5 defeats and 2 draws. But one of those draws was when Billy Bingham's Toffees were held 1-1 to a Claret team that were headed for relegation. But that's how many times we played them in a top flight recently. You go back 10 games, it's 1975. Last time out, we got a routine 2-0 win. Onana and Keane scored. But everyone's probably going to be looking back at that 5-1 under Marco Silva, which was played on Boxing Day 2019, I'm going to say, something like that. No, it wouldn't be 2019, 2018 maybe. Whenever it was, though, I think we're going to be looking at that one and thinking, right, let's go and off that again. We will see at the weekend. But
I was just going to say, Les, if everything goes wrong now that we've come up with this new multi-million-pound deal, you can go and get yourself a Makita Impact driver on the cheap instead, can't you?
Thankfully, this season, Michael Keane stopped wearing those working boots that he's had on the past few years. The irony of it. That's been it for this week's Blue Monday, or I don't know, whatever, Toffee Wednesday, whenever it comes
Blue
out.
Weekly.
Yeah, whatever.
Blue Weekly would have been Christmas Day. What will there? So
I know.
That's the one. Yeah, it's been a nice. I've enjoyed this mashup between the weekly and Blue Monday. It's been lovely. Before we go, just want to say thanks to everyone for all the support over the last 12 months. The YouTube channel, the podcast, it's continued to grow, and it's great to see. We love that everyone, love all the feedback. We get all the comments on YouTube, good and bad. It's all good to hear. We appreciate the feedback. We'll be back before the new year anyway, but I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas time, as Paul McCartney once sang. Thanks for Warren. Thanks to Dave. Thanks to everyone who's supported us this year. Up those Toffees.